have paradigms and roadblocks that prevent us from excelling, and they can be real or imagined. Welcome to Beyond Bricks, a podcast that will give you the ability to break through those walls. Here's Dr. Nathan Unurh.
Welcome to the conversation, everyone. We're going to dive into a whole bunch of really cool things today. We're going to touch on culture, we're going to touch on experience, we're going to touch on leadership. And with those many subjects, I got to have a pretty good guest to talk about that. And I am, now I'm going to call you Dr. Berdahl now, and you're going to tell me.
And I'm going to tell you to save some syllables and call me John.
All right.
Okay?
I'm with John Berdahl. And John, let's kick this conversation off first. Just tell us about you. Where'd you grow up?
I'm a small town kid. I grew up in a town of 500 people, Hills, Minnesota. And I think I always find that small town kids always need to say that they're small town kids because we're so proud of it. And I just love the community that I came from. I bounced around for my training. I went to Augustana like most of my family for college. Then I taught high school for a year. I was a high school math teacher, and I was a coach for a year back at Hills Beaver Creek. Then I went to Mayo Clinic for my medical school, internship Mayo Scottsdale, Duke for my residency, and then a fellowship up in Minneapolis. And to be able to come back and be able to take care of the community that raised me and have them put their trust in me after they've poured so much into me is just the best.
Okay, you got to pull a couple things apart for me there. Okay. So you went to become a math teacher. Yeah.
Well, no, I was a physics major.
Physics major, okay, yeah. Got it.
Wanted to be an engineer. Decided I wanted to work with people more. I was going to be an optometrist. My family optometrist said, hey, you should be an ophthalmologist. So I was accepted to optometry school. I took a year off while applying to medical school. During that time, I was working a mindless job in a veterinary pharmaceutical company, and my high school superintendent called me up and said, hey, we need a math teacher. I had never done a student teaching, nothing. And he said, we'll give you a community expert designation, and I loved it. But I needed to do something easier than be a teacher, so I became an eye surgeon.
Okay, so that is a good segue. So what's the word doctor mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, to teach.
Yeah, right.
So you didn't know.
You're right.
You did not know that you were getting ready.
And I really will say that I am a teacher. Like if you talked about my most satisfying thing that I get to do professionally, and I get to do a lot of satisfying things professionally, consulting, inventing, entrepreneurship, putting your hands in people's eyeballs. But my single favorite thing is teaching our fellow. And we get one fellow every year. They're at the peak of their game. They're one of the top in the entire country. And they're there for that 1 year to learn from you, and them putting that much trust in me. That's my favorite thing of anything that I get to do professionally.
Why do you think that is?
I think it is because I love to teach. I'm curious by nature. And so that's a nature part of me, but I love helping bring out more in people than they knew they had.
So we're going to go backwards on how I introduced you.
Okay.
Because you just brought up, in my opinion, one of the key attributes of great leaders. Leaders develop other leaders. Yeah. Of all the great leaders that I've aspired to be more like, I watch them and they're like really good at empowering and equipping other leaders. So when you tell me you love that part of it, that's a great sign of great leadership.
So my fellow from a couple of years ago gave me a little Gandhi quote that said a leader is not measured by how many followers they have, but how many leaders they create. And I think that's really true. I think that if you can help somebody, it's multi-level marketing for good.
Oh, yeah,
is what it is.
For good.
For good. And you get somebody that can draw out more. And I look at the people that poured into me when there was no really good reason to, and help get more out of me than I thought I had. Forever grateful to those folks.
Okay, so talk about some of those folks. Who's been instrumental in your life?
Oh boy. Well, I've got 5 heroes in ophthalmology, and I could share the names of those. But probably the biggest one is my grandma. Ann Loken was her name. My daughter's named after her. And she just had the right balance. She was tough and kind. Mm-hmm. She was wise and emotive. And she passed away last year at the age of 97. She took my brother and I in for a year when we were in first grade, when our folks had to make a tough decision on trying to figure out some health-related things. And so my grandma, at age 55, is a full-time nurse, takes on a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And by the way, her husband, who was brilliant, had had a stroke 15 years earlier, and she was caring for him too. And never once did I feel anything other than loved by her and brought out the best. Now, let me give you an example of my grandma. We're sitting at church, and I'm looking for her to butter my bread a little bit. And I should have known better, because she's not a bread butterer. And I tell her, Grandma, I'm just so grateful that I get to be here and our practice is going so well. And I'm so grateful for all the great training I've gotten. I'm grateful that, I think I figured out what glaucoma is, and that I invented a technology that might help people get to Mars and cure glaucoma. And I'm just kind of sit back and wait for her to tell me how proud she is of me. And she says to me, John, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit.
So what'd that do to you?
Only good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just cut me off right at the knees, just the way I needed to be cut off at the knees. And, I'm faking this humility. I just want to be told I'm awesome. Yeah. And she's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you don't care if you get the credit, you can accomplish almost anything, because you bring people along. You teach them. You help them accomplish great things.
So here's what I hear. 2 attributes. Number 1 is leaders develop other leaders.
For sure.
Okay. Number 2 is, I'm going to use a different term. I've never used this before. Intentional and authentic humility. So when I say intentional, what your grandma was saying, it's amazing, John, what you can accomplish when you give nobody else. So we sometimes say we're humble.
Yeah.
But I've done the same thing you've done, kind of passive aggressively, kind of tap. Somebody tell me how wonderful I am.
Yeah.
But that's what your grandma was teaching you.
For sure. And it produces great things too, right? If you're intentional about it. And those of us that are out there trying to do something, sometimes it takes that. It takes an unreasonable self-assurance to try to climb some of the mountains that we try to climb sometimes. But what the trap there, of course, is that you think that you're climbing it, or that you're climbing it by yourself. And whether the faith is a part of that, all the people that are a part of that, it's never anybody on their own. And how many, I've never thought of this either, but how many other people are saying, I just want to accomplish something, and they'll let you or me get the credit for it. Yeah. I guess I don't know if I've ever even put that lens on before.
Yeah. So I remember a buddy of mine, and he's brilliant at it, and I've watched him how he's create this amazing business. And he's always said, Nathan, make it somebody else's idea.
Yeah.
Pull it out of them. That's hard to do, though.
Yeah.
So you said a word, though, 2 words, unreasonable self-assurance. Mm-hmm. Pull that apart a little bit more.
Well, so I've tried to do some things, and some of them have worked and some of them haven't. And if I knew how high the mountain was to climb at the beginning, I maybe wouldn't have done that. And if I didn't have this unreasonable belief that every problem is solvable, and probably that I can help solve it, then I think that you just can get stopped and stuck. And so you can't chart a path with every obstacle figured out until checkmate, you win. You just have to start down the path and believe that when the obstacle shows up, you're going to have the team or the wherewithal or the grit to solve it and get through that problem.
Okay, so that you're giving us some great attributes. So what are some other great attributes? So unreasonable self-assurance. I've never heard that, but I love that.
Yeah.
So you got humility. Leaders develop other leaders. Unreasonable self-assurance.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got, like Walt Disney would describe that this way. Sometimes you just got to jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down.
Yeah.
Right?
And learning by doing, and actually doing, not just talking about doing. Mother Teresa has a great quote that I love that I think also applies to leadership, is that I hope it becomes as fashionable to help the poor as it is to talk about it.
Oh, that's so good.
And I think that that's true of our teams.
Yeah.
It's true in our families, in our marriage, in our faith, and all of those kind of things, is that the doers do it, and to be out there actually doing the work, not just talking about it. Maybe that's an ironic thing to do on a podcast, because we're just talking about it.
We're going to do it right after we get off here, I promise you. So what other attributes are important to you? Like, important to you that you're trying to aspire to be more as a better leader, or that you've observed?
I know what drives me in my core for sure, and that's delivering on the trust that people put in me. And, a lot of times when we're hiring people, they say, what's the favorite part of your job? And I usually start with, I love Mondays. I do. I can't wait to come in and see the team and see patients and do it. And now I love Sundays and I love Saturdays. I love my family. I love my wife. I love all of it. But I do love Mondays. The other thing is that I do believe that I'm worthy of that trust. And that's the second thing I usually say, is that I believe I'm worthy of the trust that our team, that our patients put in us, because we'll do the work. We will, we actually care. We actually really do care about our team and our patients. And it feels good to feel grateful for being worthy of the trust that people put in us.
Yeah, and I'm going to
when I fail, which I do sometimes.
Yeah.
That's really achy.
So, have you always felt worthy? I'm just going to get a little raw with you.
No. I haven't always felt worthy, and I still occasionally don't. Superimposed upon a general feeling of worthiness is moments, crises in confidence. So, I'll share a few of them. Let's see, if I get mad about something stupid, just whether that's personal or business. I had a company that we started, that same one that I was begging my grandma for the compliment on, that failed. And we lost a lot of money and a lot of jobs, and it really made me wonder if I had it or not. I still wonder sometimes. Whenever I've used my position of authority or my position of power for my own benefit at the expense of someone else's, then I would go home and feel unworthy. But I think that for the most part, and going back to my grandma, I think that she helped me feel worthy, both by being loved, but also pushing you to do harder things.
So when you don't, because the reason I ask that question is there's many times that I'll feel that same, I can do better. So how do you course correct it? Like because we're going to mess up, right? And what I'm hearing is, as leaders and having unreasonable self-assurance, we're going to run ourselves into the obstacles. We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to adapt. We're like, why did I do that? But what keeps us going forward, and how do you pivot when we've made some of those mistakes?
I think there's a couple of things that help me anyway. One is just being introspective by nature. I'm curious about the world and have wonder about things, but I do the same thing about myself and people. And then I've got a handful of people that I'll seek out, and I try to lay out the situation really earnestly and say, okay, where did I go wrong? Or here's how I see that I went wrong, and help me out there. But that still requires you to recognize it. And thankfully, I've got a couple people in my life, my wife, my son, that will say, you're out of line here, Dad. My son and I went golfing. And he's like, Dad, you're always telling me to bring positive energy. And the first 2 holes, you're like, just hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, so we don't have to make the people behind us wait. And all you were doing was sucking energy out of the system, Dad.
Yeah.
And he stopped me in my tracks, and he was right.
Yep.
And so having those unsolicited people that'll...
And our kids are good at that, and our wives are good at that.
They're naturals. Or at least mine.
Yeah. So, there's something you said there, and I think that I don't want you to miss this as you listen. Because I think good leaders do take the time to be reflective and be introspective. And it reminds me, Rockefeller. You used to talk about Rockefeller, and they would say he was so weird because he would sit in these meetings and he wouldn't say a word. And then somebody asked him one time, he goes, "Why do you sit there and not say anything?" And he says, "I learned a long time ago that my job is to think and make decisions. That's how I can add the most value to this organization." And that stuck with me, because I just don't think that we do enough thinking. We do a lot of doing versus being.
Yeah.
Taking that time to be introspective, and then having the people in our lives that can watch our blind sides.
Yeah. So going back to the fellowship, and one of my favorite things, day 1 of the fellowship, we talk about becoming a better thinker. And not just becoming a better thinker when it's calm around you and you've got a little, waterfall that you're sitting next to, but being able to think in the moment when you've got your hands in an eyeball and things are getting dicey, or you're in a meeting and it's go time and you got to make a decision, or you're in a argument with somebody. Can you think? Can you remove yourself from the chaos and the noise and think through the problem well and get through that fog of war to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, and do it for the good, not just to win, not just to pin somebody,
Right.
but to do it for the good.
I love it. Okay, there's a whole bunch there to unpack on leaderships. Thank you for that. So I want to get into culture and experiences. Sure. Okay, so I think a good transition is, let's talk about culture. You guys have developed an organization that I've watched from afar.
You've helped.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm a patient. I don't wear glasses anymore, and I love it. I love it, even though I miss my glasses from a vanity standpoint.
You don't. So I had an attorney come in, and he said, "I want to have LASIK, so that I can wear blank glasses, so that when I have my moments of righteous indignation, I can throw them across the table in the courtroom, but still see how everybody reacts."
You know what? I love it.
So it's okay. You're not alone.
Yeah. But here's what I've watched. I've just watched what you guys have done on how you take care of your team, just being a patient and watching how you take care of patients. That culture you've developed has been phenomenal. Talk about culture, because I think it's a term that gets misrepresented and it's become a tagline or buzzword or whatever. Yeah.
When I think about culture, I think that it's really about everybody knowing that they're on the same team and they got each other's back. So a lot of times when we're interviewing new staff, or when we bring people on and we're, embedding them into our culture, we talk about, so we've got a good reputation. And there's people that fly in from wherever to have surgery or see how we do things and stuff like that. And you'll walk around, you'll have a little swagger because of that. You'll drive by the building and you'll be proud to work there. But that's not what is going to make you really love this place. It's the 8 people that are on your team. And and people don't fight wars because Putin's a bad guy or Kim Jong-un's a bad guy. They fight them for the people they're in the trenches with. And it's not because they'll have your back. They will. It's not because that when you need to get to your kid's game, they will. You do it because you love them. You don't take care of your kid or your spouse because they're going to do it back to you. You do it because they actually care about each other. and they want them to be able to be at their kids' game. And then another thing that we talk about is bringing more energy than you take. The only way that you can leave energized from work is if more people are bringing more energy than they take out of the system. And so we try to be purposeful about that. And then, but you have to go from thinking it to talking about it to actually doing it. And I think we do pretty good. We screw up plenty, but we do pretty good about that. And I'll just give one example, and that's we've got free vending machines. And they got good stuff in them.
They do have good
They
stuff.
do. Have you snuck up there?
Oh, yeah, they have good stuff.
We got
in it.
kombucha, and we
Yeah,
got protein bars, and all the same, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's not a sign on it that says only one per day. And there's not a sign that says, don't abuse this or it'll get taken away. And the lack of that sign means that we trust you. And that and we care about you. But we trust you too. And I think that it's a conglomeration of those little things. And Dave Kopeska actually taught me this. He said, trust is built in short, frequent interactions. And so if you're just talking about a problem all the time with your leadership team or whoever when there's a problem, and you don't have that trust that's been built on interacting regularly, it's going to be erosive to a culture.
So what happens when you're interviewing or selecting people to join the team? What are some of the attributes that you know, hey, this is going to make an ideal team member?
Yeah, positivity is one of them. You know, just a belief that that I can make change and bring good energy. I really want authenticity. My questions are almost never related to what skills you have, and they're almost always related to, you know, what are you proud of? What are you not proud of? Which of these core values that we have resonate with you? Which ones don't? I'm giving away all my interview questions here for people who are taking the job. And what I'm really looking for is are you real? And are you good? And are you a person that the rest of the team's going to want to be around? Because how I view adding team members is that let's just say our culture's a 9 out of 10, or that team's a 9 out of 10. Well, if we hire somebody that's a 3, that's pretty detrimental, but it's pretty hard to increase the average of the group by hiring a 9.5. But if you're not hiring people that are at the average or better, you're only getting worse. And so we work really hard to try and find people that we believe that are, you know, at the average of the group they're joining or better. Because otherwise we're going in the wrong direction. And then you have the problems of scale and bureaucracy and all of that kind of stuff that pops in.
Well, and I've heard it said by many members of your team that we hire by our values, we fire by our values.
That's true.
So just talk about the values for a moment.
Yeah, we have 5.
And why they're so important.
Yeah, so caring, committed, egalitarian, excellent, and fun. Caring, committed, egalitarian, excellent, and fun.
Okay, I got to pause you right there. So for you listening right now and you can't see him, there was no script to name the values. It wasn't something that just hangs on a wall or is on a t-shirt or a hat. So what you just did right there warms my heart.
Yeah.
You went bam, 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 bam. It's who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for organizations. So, okay,
yeah,
so keep going.
right.
I had to recognize, just because sometimes people don't know them.
Not only is it important, it's erosive if you don't.
Totally.
Because then it gets used as a tool or a weapon to point out other people's flaws.
100%.
And I'll get a little philosophical / faith-based for a second, but it's kind of how I feel about the Bible too. It's not intended to be used to tell other people how to live their lives. It's intended to inform me how to live mine, and not say, you know, Nate, look, right here, committed, excellent.
Yeah. See what Jesus said? You should,
You should me first.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so that's how I feel about the values too. It's got to be me first.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when we talk about our values, you know, maybe my favorite one is egalitarian. 25-cent word for basically we're all humans, created equal by God. We have different roles in the organization, but no one human is more important than another human. And so we don't have doctor parking places. We don't have enough parking places. So we have a bus going back and forth right now, and we go and park in the parking lot.
Good problem.
And hit the bus. It is. Yeah, I'll take that one. And so, so all of those values, they matter. Life's too short not to be fun. We're committed in every one of those. It's not just committed to doing the work for our patients. It's committed to doing the work for each other. My grandma was the first one that said this to me. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Mm-hmm. And so we do have to actually care. And then excellence is, it's a standard that we hold ourselves to, and we're not going to cut corners.
Love it. So you've mentioned a few times, and so let's get philosophical.
Yeah, good. Giddy up.
Okay, so faith.
Mm-hmm.
Faith's obviously important to you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite book of the Bible?
Probably, well, it's hard not to go with John, but but I think it's probably Romans.
Okay. Why?
I think it helps us define who we are. That, if I was to, my biggest vice for sure is pride. No doubt about it. Just that's kind of the other side of the coin of an unreasonable self-assurance, and the negative side. And, it reminds us that, okay, when we compare, the only thing that's worse than us thinking that we're worse than somebody else is to think we're better than somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so there's just comparison is this big joy thief. So if we're trying to accomplish something good or meaningful and we're looking next to, and somebody's jumping a foot and you're jumping a foot and a half, but you're trying to jump to the moon, what are we even doing?
Right.
Comparing ourselves. And so that's my favorite book of the Bible, I think. I don't know that I've ever been asked that question.
So how do you use faith to help day to day?
I used to talk about my faith a lot more. I feel like I'm usually just doing what I'm called to do more and probably talk about it less. But I think that it's the guide. I think that it's the when I'm saying that what drives me is that people put their trust in me, and I want to deliver on that trust. That's very deeply rooted in just trying to do the right thing because that's what we're called to do. And so it permeates in that
It's the
way.
foundation.
It's just the foundation. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay, let's transition for a moment to experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I love watching organizations that do it really well. I don't care if they're selling cars, if they're selling furniture, or if they're the eye surgeon. The companies that are still executing at the highest level and are still relevant within their space, and because I would contend this, I don't think people judge us from their last best eye surgeon experience. It's from their last best experience, no matter what that industry is. You guys have taken such a strong approach of we're going to differentiate ourselves on experiences. Yeah. So talk about that for a minute.
Okay, so I have to rewind the clock then.
Okay.
So Matt Jensen, wonderful human, wonderful friend of mine. I know a friend of yours. He and I went to college together. He started.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. That one will get more listeners, I bet. So anyway, I was doing my residency and I got a little award, and that award got me a picture in one of our trade journals. And then Matt was paging through the trade journals and spits his coffee over because he sees me. And Vance was actually a spiritual mentor, or my grandma was actually a spiritual mentor for Vance and Jana. Really? They went to the same church, so very connected. And so Vance and Matt started recruiting me. And shortly after I joined, because these guys were, I just learned from them. Okay, I maybe executed on it a little bit or bought in, but I wasn't the creator of any of that. And Vance said, hey, John, we put our team first and our patients second. And I'm like, whoa, no way. And And just like my wife, it only took me 3 or 4 years to realize he was right. And when I say that, that's not that the patients really are a second. I mean, it's really imperceptible. What it means is you can't do it alone. And that if the team feels well cared for, the patient will feel even more well cared for. And, you know, in healthcare, the bar is so low for experience.
It really is.
Turn off your cell phone. Your copay's due before you come in. You know, the curled up coffee wrinkled things.
Magazines, are out of date. Yeah,
receptionists that are
Yeah.
trying to answer phones,
Yep,
and how
yep.
can they be happy when all they do all day long is say, you wait, no, you wait.
Right.
We put them in untenable positions. And anyway, it said the team comes first. And that's why Mondays are so great, because people are excited to come there. And then you enable the team to do special things for the patients. And then it becomes an ecosystem, and then that becomes a culture. And I'll just give one story from this summer. Had a nice little old lady, I don't know, 66 years old or so, coming in for her cataract. She's got pretty good cataracts. And I say, what can't you do that you wish you could do? She's like, I can't see the score on the bottom of Twins games anymore, and I love the Twins. And I say, oh, how many games have you been to? She's like, I hardly ever miss a game on TV, but I've never been to a game. So we walk out of the room, and what does my scribe say to me? We're getting her Twins tickets, aren't we?
Oh, I love it.
Right? But what I love about that is she said it.
Yeah.
I was already thinking it,
Yep.
but she said it, and she was going to do it without asking or anything. And so we get her scheduled for her surgery. We do her second eye. We give her the tickets to go with a friend. She doesn't know what to do with that. She calls back and gets a bunch of the phone team on the phone and says how she hasn't felt cared for that way in a long, long time, and how she doesn't know if any business has ever done anything like that for her. So now, so when you see that ecosystem, it's a patient in a moment, our team member, our ASC gets to give her the tickets and celebrate. The phone team benefits from it, and it just perpetuates itself. And so you used a word there, I think, which was moments and experiential moments. And you know, you're not going to be able to do that for anybody, but in those moments, you can create the stories and the words that they never forget. And so some of it's going to be just, hey, it's Tuesday, your eyes are important, we're going to do a great job for you, you do a great job. But every once in a while, you can capture that moment that you, the team, the patient can rally around and be on the lookout for, and they're really, really, really special.
Yeah, and here's what I want to. You guys do it so well, and so that story always motivates me. Our stories like that motivate me. But what you talked about, and I know you guys are big experience economy
That was
gurus. So it's really about the 5 components, right? It's time. It's not what we do, but how we do it. Only and exactly, surprise, and all for one. What you heard him talk about there is that you had your ears on, like they talk about at Disney. And you've empowered a team. Who doesn't want to work for a guy or an organization that allows me to do that?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, right. And so I'll give you another example. Our team can do anything for any patient or any team member up to $100. Don't have to ask anybody. All that's another example of trust. You know, kind of like the vending machine. You know, just go out and do good and do the right things for people. And, you know, sometimes I wish they'd tell me about him even a little more, because I'm in high V and somebody comes up and says,
Thank you so much.
that's right. You're welcome.
Great, you look good.
You're welcome.
Okay, so and guys, as you're listening to this right now, here's where some of you are thinking, well, I don't know how I'm going to operationalize that in my organization. Or how do you really do that? Here's what I've always curious when I talk to business owners. We'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars on advertising and this or that. Now, how much do a pair of Twins tickets cost?
Gal, I bet we got them for $30 a piece, $60.
And it's not even about the tickets. The fact you listen and she got those tickets.
right.
I mean, stuff like that goes so far.
So I think this story is true. It happened before my time. You maybe have heard it before, but when Matt and Vance got really excited about the experience economy, Matt was trying to get buy-in with the team. And that's hard, right? You know, you get a leader or somebody that has buy-in, but your culture is one thing, and you're trying to change that in the right direction. And so he had kind of bumped his head against the wall a little bit, and so one day it was raining, and the team parks across the parking lot, and he sits there with a pair of binoculars and sees when the team comes in, and then he runs out there with an umbrella. In front of them, they come into the building underneath the umbrella, and they're so grateful for it. And then he paused clinic and says, "How did that make you feel? Will you remember that? How do you feel about, do I care about you?" That's what we're trying to create for our patients. And so I don't think that the leader can just say it. They've got to find a way, if they're trying to with their team, connect on it and make it emotional for them. And I think that that's what started the snowball rolling down the hill for our practice.
I love it. So many great things there. So, okay, a lot of stuff to pull apart. So we've talked about leadership, experiences, and culture. So we're going to dock the boat here.
Okay.
As everything we just got done talking about. If you're an individual aspiring to be a better leader, if you're a team member or you're somebody who's running an organization that wants to be a better leader or who wants to differentiate themselves on experiences, what are some practical things you would recommend to give those people?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of think and do. So, a practical thing is read the book. If you're really looking for like an experience thing, the experience economy and the books that are written by those guys are great. So that's fabulous. And then do it.
Yeah.
And do it without expectation of return. And so the example of Matt going out with the umbrella or the gal getting the Twins tickets, go out and do it and let somebody else experience the joy. This is another just example of it's amazing what you can accomplish when someone else gets the credit. Yeah. The phone team got a bunch of credit for my scribe giving those tickets. And so that's the all for one piece a little bit. So go out there and do it, and then don't refocus it back on you. Refocus it let the focus be on the team and let them share in the spoils.
Such great stuff. Okay, I'm going to ask you a goofy question.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to end.
Okay.
If you could be any animal
Easy.
in the whole wild... Okay, I didn't even...
Eagle.
Okay, why?
I've always... I used to have these dreams about flying. I haven't had one in 25 years. And they always started off the same way. I was in Garrettson, South Dakota at a street dance.
I've been to those street dances.
They're great.
They were great. Good memories.
And I started running up the street, and you could feel the air underneath your hands, and then you take off and soar. And that's the animal that I would want to be. Just because you get up, you get outside of yourself, you have a perspective, a bigger picture, and just that unbridled freedom to go wherever you could go. But I want to know, how about you?
Buffalo.
And?
Being from South Dakota, you're a South Dakota boy. Well, no, you're a Minnesota boy, but close enough. We'll call you South Dakota boy now.
Yeah.
So I tell the story a lot, and if you're around me, everything, I got buffalo around me.
Yeah.
But when the storms come in on the prairie, the cattle will turn and run from the storm, and the storm always gets them. The buffalo
Turns into it.
So I think it's a good metaphor for life.
Yeah, I agree.
I love it. Thank you for this.
It was really fun.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Nathan.
Good.